Love doesn't break, not even in death. And that's just as true when the love is between a person and their dog. Today's story is about one incredibly loyal pup who even showed up at his owner's funeral. But it's what he did afterward that's really surprising. When one devoted dog lost his closest companion, he was heartbroken. Mehmet İlhan had meant everything to him. Whenever Mehmet left the house, even just for work or errands, his dog would sit by the door and wait. Mehmet had already lost his wife, and his kids were grown up with families of their own, though they still visited often. He wanted someone to share his days with, someone to walk beside him, sit with him while watching TV, and just keep him company. That's when he decided to adopt a puppy. He brought home a little black and brown pup and named him Cesur. From that day forward, they were inseparable. Everywhere Mehmet went, Cesur went too. He was never alone again. They'd play fetch in the open fields outside town, stroll together through the countryside, and even head into town where all the shopkeepers knew Cesur by name. But then Mehmet became paralyzed, and their bond became even more important. The long walks had to stop, but Mehmet still got up each day, knowing Cesur needed him. In a way, the little dog kept him going. Without him, Mehmet might have slipped into depression, but they still found ways to have fun. Mehmet could sit and throw a ball as far as he could, and Cesur would race after it, bouncing through the tall grass. Watching him brought Mehmet so much joy, it almost made him feel like he could run again too. But time moved on, and Mehmet started getting older and weaker. One day, he fell very ill. At first, he didn't want to leave Cesur's side, but his son Ali stepped in and convinced him to go see a doctor. The family promised to care for Cesur while he was gone, and finally Mehmet agreed. With tears in his eyes, he asked them to lift Cesur up so he could hold him. He hugged him close, scratched behind his ears, and gave him a favorite treat. Then he whispered to Cesur that he loved him and told him to be good for Ali. It was a hard goodbye. He set Cesur down, looked at him one last time, and left for the hospital. He stayed there for several days, but his condition only worsened. Back at home, Cesur wouldn't eat. No matter what Ali's family tried, the dog just turned away. It was like he somehow sensed that Mehmet wasn't coming back. Ali's kids tried to hand-feed him, sitting close and gently talking to him. But Cesur would just rest his head on their legs, silently hoping for comfort. Soon it became clear. Mehmet wasn't going to make it. Just days after he said goodbye to his loyal dog, Mehmet passed away in the hospital. His family was heartbroken, but no one seemed to feel the loss quite like Cesur did. The person he loved most in the world was gone, and he knew it. Ali tried to explain what was happening, but he wasn't sure how much the little dog truly understood, until the day of the funeral. When Mehmet's body was brought home in the casket, Cesur was there with the family, standing among the mourners. Quiet and still, he seemed ready to say goodbye to his best friend. During the entire service, Cesur sat beside the coffin with his head bowed. He didn't bark or whine, not a sound. But the sorrow hung around him like a heavy blanket. Dogs can't speak, but the pictures from that day say it all. There he was, sitting beneath the coffin, his little body still and his eyes full of grief. When they carried the casket to the cemetery, Cesur followed, walking closely behind. A few family members tried to lift him, hoping to comfort him, but he wouldn't let them. He moved away, completely focused on staying near Mehmet's coffin. It wasn't until the grave was filled and Mehmet was laid to rest that Cesur finally allowed someone to pick him up. Ali had promised his father that he would care for Cesur, and now the dog became a permanent part of their family. He had a warm home, regular meals, and lots of love. But that didn't mean the grieving stopped. Ali's family showered Cesur with attention, but life had to move on. The kids returned to school, Ali and his wife went back to work, and some mornings, Cesur would be home alone for a while. He was always well-behaved and followed commands, but now and then, when Ali checked on him early in the day, Cesur was gone. No one knew where he was going. But eventually, they realized that as the family left for the day, César was sneaking out through a small hole in the fence, one they hadn't even noticed before. Then he'd disappear on what seemed like his own little mission. But every afternoon, when someone got home, César would be waiting there, right at the door, like nothing had happened. Curious and a little concerned, Allie decided to follow him one day on his day off. That morning, after everyone left, he watched as César quietly slipped through the fence and started walking down the road. It was strange. In all the time Allie had known him, César had never done anything like this. But now he moved with purpose, like he had a place he needed to be. Allie followed closely. César walked at a steady pace, weaving through the town streets, and Allie couldn't believe how far he was going. They walked past César's old house. Maybe that was where he was headed? But no, he only paused for a moment, glanced at the home, then kept moving. As they reached the edge of town, Allie started to understand. César was heading to the cemetery. Even with all the different graves, the dog didn't hesitate. He weaved through the rows like he knew exactly where to go. A few workers nearby spotted him and called out greetings, giving him gentle scratches as he passed. It was clear they'd seen him before, but César didn't stop until he reached one of the newer graves, Mehmet's. That's where he lay down, quiet and still. This was what he had been looking for. This was where he needed to be. One of the cemetery workers finally noticed Ali and asked if he was joining César for his usual visit. Surprised, Ali asked how long this had been going on. The man explained that every single morning, ever since Mehmet was buried, César showed up like clockwork. He'd lie by the grave for hours, and then in the afternoon, he'd trot back home to be there when the family returned. No one really knows how long César will keep doing this, but at least now they understand where he disappears to each day. He loves his new family, but his heart is still with the one he lost. Just because Mehmet passed away, that bond didn't go away. Ali now often joins César on those quiet visits. Sitting there with him, beside his father's grave, they find a bit of peace together. César doesn't shed tears, but Ali sees it in the way he sits, the way he rests his head, and it's clear. This little dog misses Mehmet just as much as they all do. At least now they can grieve side by side. Because family isn't just about people, it's about love, and sometimes that love comes on four legs. Do you think dogs know when someone is sick or when they're gone for good? Can they feel grief like we do? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Thanks for being with us for this touching story. If you found it meaningful, be sure to like, share, and subscribe. We'll see you next time with more true, heartwarming stories.